I hope you're all having a good morning. You all look beautiful out there. Normally when I give this presentation, I have a PowerPoint, and that kind of helps me stay on track. So I'm going to do the best I can here to stay as focused as possible. So I call this workshop the Art of Infusions. Does anyone know what one of the definitions for art is? Expression. Like kind of like point blank, it's a application of creative expression from humans. And so I call this the Art of Infusions because it is creative. Science itself is creative. Without creativity, most of the inventions in science wouldn't have happened. So they go hand in hand, although a lot of people consider it void because they can't necessarily see it. But to believe in something that you can't see and to think that it exists, whether you're believing that a cell existed, that DNA existed, and being able to perceive this and creatively explain it, and then technically explain it through your application of science is very interesting. Does anyone know what the first thing we consume after we're born is? Oh, damn. That is actually technically true. Although I wouldn't necessarily consider breathing consumption. So milk, if we're lucky. Not everyone is lucky to receive their mother's milk. But milk is kind of this form of communication, this spread of information through the language of vitamins and nutrients and minerals. And it's something that we drink. So for me, when I'm talking about the Art of Infusions, it's going to be in terms of herbal mixology, because that's something that I practice. So I tell it through the lens of herbal mixology because I believe that drinks serve a very important purpose throughout humanity. Where we've gathered around fire, we've also gathered with beverage and food, and the experience of flavor and the experience of altered states through flavor. And I would consider having your mother's milk your first experience with an altered state. You know, it produces this communication, this spread of neurotransmitters that excite your brain and put you in a different state. And altered state, as coined by Charles Tart, is any state that is differentiating from your normal baseline state. I feel like that's kind of a very broad statement, because what is a baseline? I feel after the first 10 minutes of you waking up, you're already into a different brainwave state, and you're already receiving in information and mapping out your day before you even consciously know it. So I believe that it's just transitions through these altered states throughout the day, some more potent than others. And like one of the expressions of life is to maneuver and learn to learn to manipulate through these altered states to pursue the life that you want to live. So my brand, one of the brands that I have is called Altered States for that reason. It is an herbal mixology brand where we produce different types of psychoactive beverages with different types of herbs, all non-alcoholic. And I view it as a multisensory experience because it's also an exploration of flavor, an exploration of choosing the experience that you want through life and creatively bringing that people through flavor, which itself is a multisensory experience. A combination of things like taste, smell, your visual cues, psychological factors, so forth. It's I think a lot of people just think about the concept of eating when they think about flavor, but flavor is an expression of an experience, a moment in time, and of course mostly associated with your taste buds. So I'm going to skip over the who I am part and just go into kind of the itinerary, typically what the normal workshop is. The introduction, the what is the infusion, extraction methods, infusion, fermentation, distillation, some other stuff I'm going to lightly brush over. There actually are pamphlets on the floor, as well as the workshop guideline, workflow. I don't know if I printed out enough. I was kind of running a little late, so I printed out what I can. The PowerPoint copies start at the bioavailability page, and then I can always send this PowerPoint out to people whenever. Yes.
Can you talk about Lotus?
Blue Lotus? I'll lightly brush over it, but I won't talk like a whole lot about it. I don't want to like overload with information, as well as like my flow is a little different than normal. But there's a lot of practice to committing it to good memory, So we start off with what is an infusion. So an infusion is it's using a solvent like oil, water, apple cider vinegar to extract, to do a broad extraction of an herbal or fungal or just a botanical dry matter. And the process is called steeping. You mostly see that with tea, which is one of the most common simple infusions that we use on a daily basis. The other would probably be coffee. And again, just kind of shows you how integrated these herbal beverages are into our daily life, even when we're not consciously thinking about it, and how they move and shape society. Like when coffee houses were founded in London or in France, that's where you start seeing the French Revolution, because they stopped like drinking and they started getting together in coffee houses and having intellectual thought and being super caffeinated and being like, yo, we gotta overthrow the fucking government, bro. Like, what the fuck? Infusion examples that you can do at home, and this is mostly designed for the home user. Tinctures, decoctions, teas, and oils. Oils, I think, are some of the most versatile because of the cooking applications as well as the skin applications if you choose the right oil and the right herb. So it creates a double usage. Decoctions, if you're really going for a medical dose of something, you'd want to use a decoction, which is just like a very long like simmer with an herb, especially with roots like reishi and ginger, ginseng. You would want to do a decoction with those to really get the extracts that you want. Which is why it's really important to know what you want to get out of a compound when you're trying to do a home infusion, and doing like, okay, example I like to use is marshmallow root. A lot of people make marshmallow root tea, and they make a warm tea. And marshmallow root, the primary compound most people are like the primary group of compounds that most people are going after is the mucilage, and you want to do a cold infusion with that overnight so that you actually extract it in its most bioavailable form, and it becomes this like slimy kind of like watery. It's really nice. Helps with soothing your GI, as well as what was the other one? Your throat. Two classical extraction methods I bring up are fermentation and distillation. I go into some of the history into it, like where they started. Some facts I like to bring up is, well, fermentation, as far as we know, was first found, like the oldest archaeological dating is in China, which is an interesting fact. And I like to bring up that originally beer, which was found in Sumeria, contained things like wheat. What was it? It contained a lot of different herbal combinations, but it didn't contain hops. Hops was later introduced during like the 16th century in Europe, and hops themselves have a like hypnotic. What's the word I'm looking for? Euphoric. There's one with an N. Not nootropic. Not neuropathic. It's not worth getting hung up on. If it pops up, it pops up. So it kind of makes you think about like how beer used to taste and what it tastes like now, because you can't really find a lot of beers without hops. And given the fact that it has its own herbal properties, it probably produced a desired effect to where they said this is going to be a staple within culture. And I think that's really interesting to kind of think about from a perspective, because when you're doing different types of like alcohols, you can infuse different herbs inside of it to have a particular blend and effect. Alcohol was typically used as a carrier for the herbal extracts to preserve them, as well as just for ceremonial reasons. So with me, like I make different types of meads. So right now I got this persimmon, chaga, and cinnamon mead that I'm like cooking up, and the yeast themselves are a living species, and different yeast produce different types of flavors. So when you're making these different types of concoctions, there's so many different things that can have different flavor expressions, but also different expressions of the overall effect. So that's a good thing. Like with Blue Lotus wine, which primarily was consumed by the Egyptians for its psychoactive effects. I do consume a lot of Blue Lotus, and I do get some wavy feelings, but I haven't gotten like this is like mind blowing.
Similar to like the feeling of white or of Blue Lotus?
Repeat the question a little bit.
You said what's it similar to?
Yeah.
The effect? It's kind of hypnotic as well, but in a more drowsy type of way. You feel a sense of calm, and your nervous system is in alignment, but it's not very visual, like psychedelic or hallucinogenic, but that's what some like reports claim. So I've been investigating, doing.
So some people do have visual.
I think that from what I've seen, a lot of people, so some people do have visual experiences. From what I've seen from the reports of people who do have like some type of visual experience, it seems like they're like smoking it.
Okay.
Like they're taking extracts and smoking it.
Also, when you macerate it with red wine, you'll get more of a visual experience. Macerate Blue Lotus with red wine for about 3 weeks. That was also very common. Yeah, and I tried it, and I only tried like 4 ounces of it, and yeah, I could imagine trying to double that or a whole pint worth of it. It was a very outer body experience.
Floaty.
I've heard that it's very
Yeah.
similar from like the dream realm. Like I've taken it before and fallen asleep and had the most insane.
Yeah, I would say most of the effects that I feel are gonna be when I'm sleeping that night.
Yeah.
So,
Don't you really pairs well with it, expands you into it?
all right, the synergistic effects. I included fermentation, although it's not actually an extraction method. it's kind of the water is what's like you're extracting into, not necessarily the process of fermentation doing the extracting, but fermentation can produce new compounds as a whole, things like alcohol and CO2. And so I think it's important to include into this fact. Although things like distillation, which was not only, it also was an alchemical process similar to fermentation. Now that's going to be like more of a classic extraction method that is still used today. And if you're unfamiliar with distillation, it's essentially using vapor and a still to condense different liquids in different chambers to extract different compounds, which allows you to get more isolated compounds when you're doing these types of extractions. And you can do home distillation. That's not like a unfounded concept. Lightly brushing over some sacred beverages. You got kava kava from the Pacific Islands. Kava lactones are the primary ingredient there. You have coca tea from South America, cocaine alkaloids, kekion, which is from Greece. This one's kind of interesting. I believe it's with the Eleusinian Mysteries, where they essentially would gather up once a year and go consume this beverage that they called kekion, and no one knows exactly what it is, but it was definitely hallucinogenic. And people, the most agreed upon consensus is that it was ergot, which is the precursor to LSD. Then you have soma from India. Also, no one knows what this compound was, but still an important beverage to go down. So everyone, a lot of people know about chicha, which is from Peru. It's the corn fermented beverage. Now, there's also been reports of a tribe, the Wari tribe, and they were known to produce a vilca seed chicha, and vilca seed contains things like DMT, and so they were pretty much making a psychedelic chicha that they were then using to assert essentially political dominance over the nearby tribes, because most of the trees were found in their area, but not in it actually kept peace through it. So everybody was calm because they wanted to receive this beverage, and they were having these positive effects with it. So it's a very interesting little tad bit of history right there. And I also like to include stuff like that because a lot of times we like to perceive that these tribes and indigenous places didn't consume these compounds for the sake of pleasure, and that it was always for the sake of ritual. And I think that when you're living in harmony and in ceremony with life, everything itself is a ritual, and you're always going to be respecting nature. So when you do something for pleasure, it is inherently respecting nature, and they don't complicate it in the way that our Western mind is, because we've detached ourselves from that concept. So it's important to be intentional when consuming these things, and pleasure is an intent, and it's an important intent. Then we go over the different compounds. Again, I'm not going to kind of go into that because it can get kind of tedious, but it is listed in the workshop sheet. Other different alkaloids and glycosides, etc., the different compound classes. Now, those aren't going to be the technical isolated compounds, but if you kind of know what herb you're what herb you're working with and the group of compounds that you do want to extract, it gives you a broad generalization of the range you can work with in. What it's going to be most soluble in, like water, oil, alcohol, so that you can perform these home extractions. But you can get more particular when you research the herb and learn the exact name of the compound that you're going in. Like cordyceps, it's the compound, one of the main one is cordycepin. So when you know the exact compound, you can do research on like things like the molecular weight, so forth, and like figure out the exact temperatures and solutions that it should be in. The part that picks up in your workshop is going to be where it is the bioavailability, which is like lightly talks over things like liposomal nanotechnology, and there's one thing missing actually from the slides, but can't do anything about that right now. And I lightly just talked about those because those are the now of a lot of different compounds. We're seeing nanotechnology take over the beverage industry, especially day in and day night. For instance, with cannabis, it creates water-soluble cannabis, which cannabis is normally hydrophobic, so it doesn't like water. It's oil-soluble. So if you're working with cannabis, you make butter, you make oils, and things like that. Although I think you can do green dragon, which is like an home alcohol extract. It's not as potent. So when you have water-soluble THC, you can start making beverages with it on a wider scale, which is why you see all these THC beverages picking up. It kicks in. It kicks in about 15-20 minutes, which means it has a shorter half-life, so it's going to go away in 3 hours instead of like a 6 to 9 hour, depending upon your metabolism. It doesn't have to go through your liver; it goes directly into your bloodstream, so it's going to affect everybody pretty similarly. It also feels a little bit lighter, whereas like if it goes through your liver, you have to have a certain level of enzymes to actually process THC, and everyone has a different level of them, so everyone has a different high when it comes to eating a standard edible. So you're going to see more and more nanotechnology herbal like products like enter the market, or at least the ones that even already have discussed that they do. And then you have liposomal extracts, which are another way of increasing bioavailability. At the end, we start getting into flavor, which is again in the packet, which is cool. So you guys actually get to pick up on this one. There's a lot of tiny factoids in there that we're not going to go completely over. But simply, flavor is a complex sensory experience that combines things like taste, mouthfeel, cultural factors, smell, visual and auditory cues, and psychological factors. We can talk about the taste. In the taste, I essentially go over, do I actually go over this? Okay, yeah. In taste, we go over the typical 5 taste buds, which are going to be sweet, salty, bitter, umami. And then I discussed that there's other potential candidates for taste. Scientists are trying to find taste buds specifically for fat, metallic, and water, or like alkaline. I think fat has the most others that they specifically go to, and then our brain creates through these individual instruments that are playing, it creates a symphony that we perceive as smell, as it converts the chemical data into mechanical data, and smell goes directly to our olfactory cortex, so it can activate sensations of like your memories and things like that. So it's the only sense that goes directly to your brain. Hypotheses are that if you learn things like the smell of fire or something that smells good and delicious as a creature, you learn to maneuver away and from those things. And so it's important to have a very quick response to those type of things. And so arguably it could have been one and could still be one of our most important senses. I'm not gonna go super straight into that. To just brush over visual cues, you have the color, as colors of food can affect our expectations. Like red foods are perceived to taste sweeter, type of deal. Then you have auditory cues, so different sounds can affect like our perception of the food. Primarily, like for instance, like crunchiness. And certain studies, like if you can't hear your own crunch in your mouth, you perceive the food as tasting lesser than, even if it's the same exact food as like other people, because it just affects your experience so much. As for like cultural and psychological factors, an example I like to bring up in these type of things is like the sensation of umami, or the taste of umami, which is like very well known in Asian cultures, but it wasn't as primarily known in the Western society. And so it took time for the Western palate to adapt to this flavor that was so loved in this region of the world. And now everywhere, people are like seeking to produce umami something. It's a like in high tier restaurants, umami is a sought after taste, with things like koji and other fermentations. So that's like a cultural and psychological factor that affected overall sense of flavor, where people had to adapt to this type of flavor that's now worldwide. Things like rituals and traditions and social norms can affect your flavor experience. Your emotional state, memory, and experience. So if you like ate some food with somebody that you like used to date, and now that food doesn't taste the same anymore because of that memory and experience, and now like that's just a psychological factor like affecting it. You have to like relearn that. Then we get into flavor pairing. Normally I have all my tools, we'd make a drink, all that type of jazz, but I did not bring that today. I apologize, I didn't know what to expect. But come see me sometime at my place and we can do this again, and we can run it back. I can take you through the whole shebang. So I won't go over flavor pairing too much because we're not going to be doing too much flavor pairing today, guys. However, again, presentation has all the information designed for home user. So if you're out there, just check out the presentation. Some techniques with flavor, at-home flavor pairing. I suggest looking up different types of books that you can find on Amazon, such as the Flavor Matrix, which uses things like flavor wheels to tell you different pairings based upon the similar compounds found within them. So that's a very interesting book. It's really fun. It's very visually appealing. So great, perfect for the home user. And it'll give you a lot of inspiration on some fun, surprising pairings that you can start doing at home. Flavor Matrix. Flavor Matrix. Yeah. I would say I use that probably the most. Well, honestly, I think that might be it for us today, everyone. Where do we taste?
Yeah, how can people find you? Or...
So my studio is called the Bardo. We're on Instagram at bardo.atl. That's BARDO.atl. That is where you will find my pop-up bar, Altered States. So unless I'm doing a event and vending, then the Bardo is the place to find me. Oh, where do you taste? Like scientifically?
Like your taste buds, your lips,
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, you definitely taste in your mouth. You taste on your taste buds. That is as far as tastes go, the reason why we have the 5 taste buds is because we found, or the 5 senses of taste, or the 5 tastes, is because we found the taste buds for those, and we can like determine what molecules go and activate and respond to those taste buds, which are going to be in your tongue. They're going to be widespread in your tongue, where the only area typically that has more is going to be the back of your throat, where more bitter compounds are. Most likely, the most agreed upon hypothesis is that you would have wanted to know when a bitter substance is reaching the back of your throat so you can put it out or project it out. So you're going to have more bitter taste buds back there. But for the most part, they're widespread throughout your taste bud. And there's a lot of them. And different expressions show up on different people. There's a book called Flavor. I can't recall the author right now, but it's called Flavor. And in one of the chapters, he discusses how like bitter compounds all taste differently and respond to different taste buds on your tongue. And so it's hard to get like synonymous for a lot of different things because of that fact. And different people taste bitter, different people taste all different tastes differently. So it's very hard to get these synonymous, agreed upon verbiage for flavor, which is hard, makes it hard to express it to most people unless they learn a language of flavor. Whereas other things like color, you can be like, okay, that's blue, and like we have an agreed upon blue, and we know that it can get into shades of blue, like cerulean blue. We can get into sky blue. We can get into things like periwinkle and whatnot. But there's verbiage to it. But with flavor, it's very like abstract.
People also have different amounts of taste buds. So people that have like, I don't remember what the like percentages or numbers or ratios are. People that have like high amounts are considered super tasters and feel like really sensitive to those bitter notes.
Yes.
And then like if you have less ratio of taste buds per like square centimeter or whatever, be considered a non-taster. And doesn't mean you can't taste. It just means you're less sensitive to like things like strong bitter.
So, and one of the funny things is in the book, they bring that part up, and he, based upon his taste buds, he was considered a super taster. And then when he tasted some bitter compounds, they tasted less bitter to him. And that came down to what taste buds were on him specifically were being activated from that bitter and responding. I thought that was a very interesting like nuance to it, essentially.
And it's also so connected to like memory and what you're used to tasting. Like if you're someone that's like, you drink black coffee every single day for like most of your life, you're more like
Adapted to it.
yeah.
You're
It's
psychological.
not gonna like shock
If you
you.
get like a pumpkin spice latte from Starbucks, you're like, whoa, that's way too sweet for
Or if
me.
you taste something that's actually poison, that's super bitter, you're not gonna be as like, shocked.
You built up a psychological like profile with it and relationship with it, and now the psychological factor is that it's okay to you. Like when people, compared to when people are like, oh, first have coffee, black coffee, most people are like, oh no, I can't do it, and then at some point they're like, all right, this is perfect.
Oh yeah.
What about cilantro?
Hearing people like experience cilantro as this really strong, off-putting, like soapy taste, and then some people, yeah. There's a certain, like a certain like gene or something that people have that creates that experience.
Yeah, my family always used to like garnish with cilantro, and they would be like, "Come on, you can barely taste it." And I'd be like, "What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, that is like soap."
They did a study on it like in the last few years.
Oh wow, that's vibe.
You don't have that, Jason.
No.
Any other questions?
What's your favorite taste?
Sweet.
I guess what's your favorite drink?
Oh yeah, I don't know if I keep favorites like that.
The one that gets you most excited.
Right now, what is your favorite drink to make
You know, I have like some compounds that I like consuming right now. As far as like taste, it's just what's available, and what I feel like experimenting with. You know, I've been really vibing with my my triple Ks, which would be the Kava Kana Kratom, and then the C's of the cannabis. I like to do my coca, cinnamon. I'm just like really vibing with right now. As far as extract tea and flavor right now, that's definitely a holiday flavor for me. And do I like doing anything else? I like the Blue Lotus too. Hmm? So for kava, it's going to be kava lactones, and kava lactones you are going to want to. They need to be macerated out of the kava, so they would traditionally, you know, chew on it and spit it out into a bowl. And nowadays we can just massage the hell out of it, massage it for a long time, be very loving to it, you know, very present with it. It's best to also add coconut milk to it because it's gonna absorb a little bit more into the fats. And so when you have like coconut milk and water and you squeeze it, then you have things like micronized kava, which is gonna be water soluble and readily available. No, not water soluble. It's just gonna be readily available because that shit's gonna definitely float to the bottom and still gonna have debris into it, but it extracts into water without the need for maceration. I'm gonna definitely vibe with that. I'm definitely gonna do that for sure. Awesome. Yeah, that's coming up. The kava horchata, the kava coquito,
Kava colada.
Rice.
kava colada.
Halloween, it was the same.
Yeah,
Chicha.
That's what they
Kava
call
chicha.
chicha.
Ferment the corn, the kernels with the kava.
Yeah, dude, I'm so caffeinated. Yeah, no, we have a sponsor for the next kava club, so we'll have like a kava drink that I'll be making a kava mocktail with.
When's the next Kava Club?
Don't know. I'm not in charge of the kava club planning. We have to ask my astrologer, and she's off in the mountains right now, probably looking at the straws. I mean the stars. Yeah, I don't know when the next one is. I haven't received the lowdown on the date. So stay tuned, but it will be in December. Don't worry. You know, we're not skipping a month.